Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out, salute to the supporters right here on YouTube, pushing to that goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. Right now, we are at about 8,958 at the time of this recording. So we need about 40 people to hit 9,000, because I think before we get to the end of the year, we'll definitely hit 10,000 subscribers on this channel, which will be pretty dope for a channel that maybe a year ago was only at like 200 to 300 subscribers on YouTube. So I appreciate everybody who's locked in, those who subscribe on YouTube, obviously, but also those who have been listening in audio form, or maybe you discovered this podcast in audio form and you don't mind watching video. Check it out, subscribe, review on Apple Podcasts and all that good stuff for content like this, right? A weekly hip hop news podcast that's not just all about Diddy, right? All about Diddy, all about who got arrested, who got stabbed up in prison. Other people got that. But here, we're going to talk about the music, we're going to talk about the culture, so on and so forth. So if that's what you like, subscribe, but more importantly, share it with people you know enjoy this kind of content. Content like a video I did this week for the audio files, for those who like to have a good set of headphones. But more importantly, those who use streaming services. And even though this isn't specific to this one streaming service, Spotify in particular, and it's basically asking the question, is Spotify's algorithm ruining the music industry? Now, it says music industry, but spoiler alert, when you watch the video, I think it's more about the listening experience for music fans. So check that out. That was a video, a reaction video to Sound Guys. Is a channel I subscribe to. So check it out. I think it's interesting and it relates, right? A lot of us use streaming services. So it's not, oh, I don't have Spotify, I'm good. No, a lot of these services offer this very same thing. Some are better at it than others. So check it out. There'll be, a link at the end of this video and some pop up at some point here on this video. Big shout out to hiphopdx.com and Brochure for Heads and a couple of places where I'm getting some of my stories from. Let's get right to the business stuff. Big Sean, Joey Badass, and Absol put together a freestyle video. I forget the name, my bad. I forget the name of the people who do it, but it's like a 360 video. They're rhyming. They've had a couple of dope videos out, but they're rhyming and the camera's like going around in a circle. It's pretty dope visually. And this freestyle was interesting because we know what Joey Badass did at the beginning of the year, calling out West Coast, really, because he was very vague about it. He tries to explain himself in this one, but I don't really buy it. Call it Buddy, he kind of does. We'll get to Joey, but he doesn't touch on, he addresses that freestyle and the people who responded to him back then, most notably Ray Vaughn out of TDE, and also Daylight. You know what I'm saying? Legendary battle rapper. If you don't know, just say, who's Daylight? Who is that? Trust me, I'm afraid to hear his rebuttal to this. But those two in particular, while also kind of still talking about Kendrick and something that came a little bit later. But what was interesting that you would think is, oh, Absol's right there. That's Kendrick's homie. It's West Coast all day. And I think they did a really dope routine where when it was Absol's turn to go, he turned to Joey and he was spitting to him, but it was like a back and forth. Like, I know, Bob, like I loved it because it was like, this is what it's about, right? It ain't about no beef. So Rayvon, chill with the physical threats. He can rap. Don't get it wrong. He can rap. But what they displayed, Big Sean, Absol, and especially Absol and Joey Badass being in this together, right? Sorry, Big Sean, it's happening again. It's like the control verse, which they kind of touch on, but I think it was still dope because it showed some solidarity in hip hop that, yo, we could be competitive. You know what I'm saying? So I think it was dope in that manner. Might have been crazy if it was Daylight, Ray Vaughn, and Joey Badass that did it. That might have been crazy, but Joey would have got jumped. So right off the heels of that, Ray Vaughn is like, here's a diss record called Ho Era with a video. Here you go. And I like him. He's pretty dope. I think his first response when he was rhyming over the Heart Part 6, not that Drake trash, the one the one on GNX. I thought that was fire. This one was like, okay, this is kind of a warm up kind of thing, but I don't think you should have came with a warm up when your original was so dope. But nevertheless, Ray Vaughn still had bars. Not too long after that, Joey drops a joint called, I think, The Finals, and he goes directly at Ray Vaughn, and he breaks him down to the organic compound, like he breaks him down, right? And I just felt like that was the freestyle cipher thing, and that was the best to me that Joey sound lyrically out of all these back and forths dating back to the beginning of the year. That was the best because he was like laser focused on Ray Vaughn. The thing is with Ray Vaughn, a lot of people don't know him and they don't really know a lot about him, even though, interviews are out there. His album that came out was pretty dope, or mixtape or whatever it is. So he was able to do a lot of flips, but it's a lot of unknown. So I don't know if Joey Badass saying what he's saying about his relationship with TDE and blah, blah, blah. I don't know the strength of that, right? But it's crazy to be dissing a dude using a lot of Top Dog and TDE references when you just did like a Comrade freestyle with I'm getting ready to call him Daylight, Absol. Stop sleeping on Absol, by the way, y'all. Stop it. He can spit, all right? And you see it. Um, so as of this recording, we haven't heard anything from Ray Vaughn, but in that same finals freestyle from Joey Badass, that diss song towards Ray Vaughn, he's still baiting Kendrick. Now, this is the thing, right? There's two sides to this. First of all, you already see, if you're watching the video, you already see the hat. I'm Brooklyn all day, right? So that's one, right? But I don't like, you see the shirt too. You know what I'm saying? The real king of New York. Everybody else is pretenders. But you see it in a way where, and I hate to say this. Well, let me say this also. I'm not just from Brooklyn. I don't just like Joey Badass because he's from Brooklyn. I like Joey Badass. Like I like a lot of his music. I check for new albums, songs, even songs that some people don't like from Joey Badass. I like. I like him. He's dope to me. And I felt like in January, his freestyle was just so unnecessary because nobody was asking you if they wanted you to battle Kendrick. Like nobody. Some people care because they want Kendrick to go down for what he did for Drake. Some people care because they're not really into Kendrick's style of music and they're more into Joey Badass' style of music. They think Joey Badass is more about bars than Kendrick is. I don't know how you look at this battle. You just didn't get a lot of what was said. That's what I get. You just didn't get a lot. Like you have to know. It's like with battle rap, right? Like I said with Ray Vaughn, you have to know enough about this person as a spectator for some lines to hit. if you didn't know Drake had a questionable history online that you could look up before AI and all of that with the minors, then those lines might have been like, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? The naming of his crew. You might not even know who is Baka got a weird case. Why is he around? Like, maybe you don't know who that is. So in battle rap in general, you have the same thing. You go back to Jay-Z and Nas, you can go back to all of this. If you don't have the context in order to hear the rhymes and get what they're talking about when they're taking shots at each other, you're listening to a totally different situation, a totally different battle. And one thing about Joey Badass as a fan that made me ask this question, does Joey Badass look desperate? Is because I remember he dropped probably my favorite, well, I won't say favorite, but one of my favorite albums of his, American Badass, not too long after To Pimp a Butterfly. And it had the same tone as far as the concept, right? Which is weird. Why would you diss Kendrick? But at at that time, I was like, man, this is a really dope album, but nobody's going to care because To Pimp a Butterfly is out and is already checking that box. But what Joey did wasn't exactly like in the same way that To Pimp a Butterfly did. Like musically, To Pimp a Butterfly is everything. Is black music in general. It's not just hip hop. Whereas Joey's musical side for that album was hip hop, but it was still about Black Lives Matter, it was still about black men, young, black men in general getting killed or police brutality and all of that. It had all the same beats and it was very dope. To me, there was room for both. But when that album didn't hit in the way it should have, then it kind of went back to the well with what people were familiar with and he put out an album. I think it was the joint. I think he had one in between, but most notably the joint that was called 2000, which was a sequel to his 1999 record. I think he had Diddy. I think he had Diddy on there doing the skit. Oh shit. Uh, oh, pardon me, family podcast. My bad. Sometimes they slip out, children. But also Nas, like he had all these cosigns of him lyrically, and it still didn't pop in the way I think he wanted it to. Even though his fans were there, yo, Bars is back. Don't sleep with my homie, blah, 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 and all of that. It felt like he was like not getting the attention he wanted. And it felt like it's time for him to have a new album out. And instead of, here's the new singles he put out that didn't really crack for people like passports and luggage or something like that. I liked it, but a lot of people didn't like it because it wasn't bars. And he was doing a lot of singing. So I think to satisfy himself and to satisfy those fans who want him to be about bars, he's just decided I'm gonna just start dissing because it's clear, that's what y'all want. And in a lot of ways, he's right. This is probably the most universal attention he's gotten on his music, maybe ever. Right? It's not saying he's not successful and he didn't have dope albums and people don't like him. He's almost like Big Sean. It's like damned if you actually, when you look at it, which is kind of like an underlying theme, and we're gonna move on, I promise. Big Sean, Joey Badass, and I keep getting ready to say Daylight, and Ab Soul kind of have the same careers in a lot of ways. Big Sean is probably the most successful. Then there's Joey, then there's Ab Soul, but they always exist in the shadows of others, right? It's never like Joey dropped something, he rose above Drake, or he rose above Big Sean or Kendrick, right? Same thing with Ab Soul. He doesn't even rise above his peers on the label, right? And with Big Sean, with him, even though he's more successful, his last album, which was pretty good, was dropped during this battle, and no, everybody forgot. Everybody forgot or didn't look. So I get it. I believe there's a little bit of desperation because, in a lot of ways, this is the way he's getting people's attention. And maybe when he drops his album, there'll be more people inclined to listen to see what it sounds like, even if they're there to hear another diss record. It's just a way to draw attention. I think it is desperate because I think if you're going to ascend to a level that's bigger than where you are, you just got to do it with great music. Period. You can't. I mean, you can try to find ways to market yourself, but calling out Kendrick to possibly get ignored will probably backfire. I know he doesn't want to battle Ray Vaughn and Daylight. Like they haven't achieved the success Joey Badass has achieved, right? Even at his level, which is, notches way below Kendrick, if you ask me, but still credible. I don't think he wants to accept his position. And in a lot of ways, I'm not mad at that because that's what hip hop is about, right? If Kendrick can go on control and call everybody out and say, step your bars up or watch the party die, and so can Joey. I just feel like this is probably one of the most pointless battles ever. Not because there's not bars involved, but because, like, he clearly wants Kendrick to battle him. But he's just battling the other dudes because they're the ones who responded. But he won Kendrick. And I think Kendrick does not care about this, and he'll probably address it in some small way. I just hope it doesn't turn into another battle because on a grander scale, I love hip hop, I love battles, but styles make fights, and depending on the matchup, I'm not as interested in this matchup as I would if it was somebody way more credible. Like, not that Kendrick should spend the rest of his career battling, but if someone like Eminem's just decided I'm going for Kendrick, going at his head, pause, I'm interested in that one because I think lyrically and what could be said would be more interested than what Joey's doing right now. Just or battle Daylight. No disrespect to Ray Vaughn, but Joey battling Daylight is more impressive to me than it would be battling Ray Vaughn because Ray Vaughn in the hip hop game, even though he got some joints out, he's still unproven. He's still new with the TDE stamp on him, not necessarily new to the game. So we'll see where things end up. But honestly, I'm loosely listening because I don't care. Next story. Styles P was in an interview recently, and he was talking about very aggressively the difference between him and Jim Jones lyrically. And he just summed it up like, I'm a bar master. I done been on tracks for such and such, such and such, 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 such. Now, talking about desperate, this should be right up Jim Jones' alley. He's been begging anybody who would listen to battle him. Why? Because it just brings more attention to your music. Now, I will say this. Honestly, he don't need any attention on his album that he dropped at the church front steps this year because I like it. And I think it's dope, and I think it's one of the best of the year. I do. But when it comes to comparisons between him and Styles P, and where this is coming from is like, I think Versus is supposed to come back, and that's a potential battle. But again, styles make fights, no pun intended. And we all know Styles P will wipe the floor with Jim Jones. Wipe the floor with him. He is not, they're not on the same level. Jim Jones, what he makes that I like, it's cool. It sounds good. It sounds good to the beats. It's a certain vibe, not the old YN vibe. Well, yeah, it's kind of some of that. Uh, but you don't have to be one to enjoy it. I think there's just something to be said about him, even if he ain't writing it, because that's another thing. But his commitment to what he says, right? Because everything he says isn't a jewel for you to grow up on. But there are a lot of things you could tell there's a struggle with him personally between the streets, the church, and like family, and him trying to balance all of that. And it makes him dope. And what Styles P brings to to a battle is a lot of the same things that you wouldn't think, right? He got the street side of him also, but Styles P catalog has a lot of conscious music in it. So he's like street conscious. Kind of like when, NWA sometimes kind of got in that bag. But when it comes to technique, bar work, never was I blown away by a Jim Jones verse, right? Never was even as an MC, I was like, I just think Jim Jones says some cool ish, right? But Styles P can say the cool ish, but he will break you down as an MC. What he said, bar master, he's not lying. He's arguably the best one in the locks. There was a point in time where I didn't think that. I thought Kiss was. But early Kiss was a monster. And Sheik too. Sheik kind of still is. Kiss current verses do nothing for me. And I don't say anything because it's Jadakiss. I love Jadakiss. But I don't think Jadakiss is as hungry as he used to be. I think Styles P is always hungry. That's why he would say this. So I'm not going to watch the verses of those two. I would accept one diss record from Jim Jones and one diss record from Styles P because I know what's going to happen. It's going to end. Now I will be surprised if I'm like, oh, Jimmy joined back. I just don't think it's going to happen. So, what do you think about that? Hip hop heads watch this channel, they listen to this podcast. I know the answer. But do you think Jimmy even has a chance in a versus against Styles P? Jimmy got hits. He got a couple of hits. But Styles P have a couple slow solo joints too. Like one or two of his solo joints, I don't know, they match Jimmy in some way. So we'll see. I don't want to see it at all, to be honest. But that's that. You know what I'd rather see? Styles versus Kiss. That's a versus. Let's get to that. Shout out to what's his name who says that. And lastly, so last year in my best of 2024, in my top 5 was Snoop and Dr. Dre's album Missionary. And no, it wasn't Doggy Style. It wasn't The Chronic. It was, let's just say, bigger in sound and approach and features. And I thought it was really good, right? I thought it was really good. I liked it a lot. And then in January, Snoop took all that goodwill, all that momentum, and flushed it down the toilet when he performed at, we're not saying his name on this podcast, on the current president's inauguration, right? Now, I'm just going to give y'all a disclaimer right out the box. I don't need entertainers I like of any form, film, music, whatever it may be, even podcasts, to have the same political views as myself or vote for the same person. Now, as a black man, sure, I had better expectations for someone like Snoop. Nelly kind of looked desperate. I ain't gonna front. Soldier Boy, he did what he did, and he ain't shy about it. So I'm not even mad at him. And he probably, who knows, he might have voted the other way. But Snoop, on the other hand, was kind of disappointing, And I think, even though I didn't deliberately stop listening to Missionary because of that, it just put a bad taste in my mouth. And, I was like, I'll revisit it because I liked it. So I think, like Brother Malcolm X said, do not look to entertainers for advice or views or leadership on things like the world's troubles or politics or whatever. And I believe that. And I believe that Snoop, just like Nelly, just like Soldier Boy, did it for the money. But when your base is on the other side, well, they start to look at it like, we not messing with you no more. We don't trust you. But Snoop says, is it a crime? Which is the title of his latest surprise album, where he's now also working with Spotify after having issues with the way they pay out. So who knows? Maybe his books look different than most artists now. But it's a surprise album from Snoop that just dropped called Is It a Crime on Death Row Records, which I always smile when I see that. It's 21 songs, but only clocking in at an hour. So it's not a long album at all. It's just that some of those songs he could have took off. I ain't gonna front. He could have took them off. Okay. So for those who don't know, who are new here, when I review albums, I give them 3 listens, right? First listen, I'm just checking out what's there. Second listen, okay, now I'm gonna listen a little bit more deeper into the lyrics and the concepts and the beats. And the third listen is just to confirm my thoughts. So for those who want a quick review, this is a good album. This is one of Snoop's better albums. And typically, he doesn't do back to back good albums, in my opinion. So there you have that. Is it best of the year? Nah. Will it be in my top 5? No. But it could be within that section of albums that I call the best of the year. But we have a long way to go in 2025, so it may fall out of that quickly, right? Now, I will say this. Well, really quick, features on the album include October London. I feel like they used October London just to sound like Marvin Gaye. Like, you know who we wish we had on here? We wish we had Marvin Gaye. October. And that's his whole purpose on Death Row. So he need to get out of there if he want to get out of Marvin's shadow. Who else is on here? L.A. Russell, or is it La Russell? I don't know how you pronounce it. Who else? Wiz Khalifa is on this album. Pharrell is on this album. Sexy Red is on this album. I'm gonna just review that one real quick. Sexy Red can't rap to me, like at all. Like she can't rap. She can't rap. There's a difference between you're saying things and you're rapping, but she can't rap. Rap is karaoke to her. It's not embedded. Everybody don't have to be a bar king. But when you look at somebody like Glorilla, you could tell she likes to rap. You may not like the rap, but you could tell the way she spits it. Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, you could tell they know rap. They know how to have that energy. Sexy Red sounds like she has trouble talking, let alone rapping. And don't worry, it's not just about the ladies because that's how I feel about 21 Savage. He can't rap to me. So this song is trash, right? But out of 21 songs, skipping is cool. In general, I feel like with this album, it starts off very strong. Very strong. Like you start thinking like, Snoop is back. He's 2 for 2. And then you start getting a mixed bag of songs, because I think the beginning tracks are more boom bap, soulful, West Coast sounding. Like you get all those different vibes early on that kind of set the tone for the album. And then you start to get a lot of these experimental kind of joints, right? You got one joint that I feel like, damn, I don't have the name down of the track. Let me just look real quick. Yeah, it's just one track that sounds like a beat that Kendrick would have chose with the vibe that Kendrick would have done, right? Like not boom bap, not West Coast, almost kind of quirky sounding, but fun. So I don't think it's bad. It just threw me off because the way the album starts. Like I said, the Sexy Red joint is whack to me. But the majority of the music on here is pretty dope for Snoop. And then also, he addresses in a direct but indirect hip hop way the inauguration. And honestly, the bar is really putting more emphasis on money than political position. Which, what I said earlier, I think Snoop did it for the money, and I think that bag was so big he didn't care what people thought. To be honest, now he cares, but it's too late, man. You can't keep doing that. And then also he sort of addresses, well, not sort of, he addresses what Kendrick was saying, specifically whacked out murals, and he admits to making the wrong move. And this is the thing with Snoop, man. He is a walking contradiction. He will do and say things depending on the moment. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like he want to be left alone to playing his Madden and Call of Duty in his crib in his downtime. But then he want to pop out and say things and do things on the main level like, oh, you're famous. This is, you already know, this is the famous life. So as much as people will praise you for things, they will also criticize you. And a lot of times, deservingly so. Not a lot of times, but, if that's what it is, then, you take it, whatever it may be. So is it a crime by Snoop Dogg? If you like Snoop Dogg albums, if you didn't like the last album, you may like this one because it's a different vibe. It's closer to Blue Carpet Treatment, which is when you talk about Snoop albums like Doggy Style, and there's a couple of good ones, but Blue Carpet Treatment is it. And I felt Missionary was kind of that, but I think this is dope. It's just a mixed bag when you get to that half way point. If you don't like those different styles of records that aren't boom bap or straight up West Coast sounding. So, what do you think about Snoop Dogg's brand new album? Is it a crime? Leave your comments in the comment section below. I read them, I like them, I love them, whatever. Follow the podcast on social media at Vegas World and INC, my bad. And that's whatever social media platform. It's the same name. Also, if you're listening to audio, particularly Apple Podcasts, review the podcast there, but subscribe on Spotify and everywhere you may get your podcast listening. And this show is on the road to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube by the end of 2025. We're knocking on the door of 9,000, literally. So if you found this channel and you like this, hit that like button, subscribe to stay locked in. Leave a comment if you will, but most importantly, share it with people you know enjoy this kind of content. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic, I'm a fan. Peace.